Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. It's my honor this evening to present to you a little tribute to Bill Wood, the founding director of the Sorensen Institute, who passed away last fall. And I want to share some perspective about Bill with you. Bill would, yes, he would. He would search every person and situation until he located the positive, and then he would emphasize that message. I've never met a person who more accurately personified the mission of the organization that he or she led. Sorensen's is to improve political leadership in Virginia, thereby strengthening the quality of governance at all levels. What ingredients does that kind of leadership require? Commitment, integrity, honesty, humility, energy, passion, focus, understanding, and drive. All of those describe Bill. Upon his appointment as the first director of the Institute, then UVA President John Castine said, "As editor of the Norfolk newspapers, he has won the admiration and respect of Virginians at all levels of public service. He is the right person to build the Institute into a serious service for all Virginians interested in good government." Today, 20 years later, we realize how accurate John's statement turned out to be. Bill had three passions: politics, baseball, and carol. They were deeply intertwined. Often you weren't sure which passion you were experiencing. I recall one of our early fundraisers. That's before we renamed them galas, Bob. Bill had convinced then Speaker of the House, Tom Moss, to be honored, that is, roasted. As you might guess, there were a lot of folks who wanted a piece of that action. And of course, none could stay within the time allotted. It was well after 11 o'clock when Tom got to the podium. He looked down at Bill and said, "I can't believe I've tolerated 3 hours of humiliation in order to raise money for you to teach someone how to defeat me." Bill simply looked up, shrugged as he would, and gave that oh-so-familiar choir boy grin. Speaking of humiliation, one day, Bill and I were driving to Roanoke and got into a conversation about our undergraduate experiences. "I learned humiliation at Duke." "What? Do you mean humility?" "John, no one learns to be humble at Duke." He explained, "I went to Duke on a partial baseball scholarship as a pitcher. I earned a spot in the starting rotation my freshman year. I thought I was really hot stuff. My first starting game was to be at North Carolina." Now, I need to pause a moment for those of you who may not have a great deal of baseball history. Bill grew up in New York City as a rabid Brooklyn Dodgers fan. In the late 50s, both the Dodgers and the New York Giants moved to California, leaving the city with no professional team. In 1962, an expansion team was created in the city and named the New York Mets. They were bad. I mean, really bad. The first season, they lost 120 games, and that record still stands as the worst in baseball history. No team has ever experienced more vitriolic ridicule than the New York Mets. So even though Duke was not a very good baseball team, it was Bill's proud first day. His first day in a Duke uniform, as he and his teammates took the field at Tar Heel Stadium, they were greeted with this thunderous chorus, "Let's go Mets." That's humiliation. What a fine training ground for a career of writing about and working within an arena of some huge egos. An underlying requirement for maintaining your sanity in that environment is a sense of humor and a connection with your soul. We often saw Bill's soul take charge. It came forth even in those final weeks when Carmi and Dave would make their regular visits with Bill. Bill's mind had shut down by that time, but Carmi, with her iPod, would play his favorite bebop music. It would ignite his soul. He would pull himself out of a chair with that devilish grin and mindlessly dance what Carol calls his jitterbug wiggle. Bill's humor blended with his soul and remains with his spirit. Some of you were in the UVA chapel on November 27th for Bill's memorial service. It was a little long. Begun at 2, an hour had already passed when the priest began the Mass with the phrase which you know, in the name of the Father, bong, in the name of the Son, bong, in the name of the Holy Spirit, bong. The chapel bell had pealed 3 hourly chimes as if choreographed. I looked at my colleague and said, Bill's at it again. Bill could be all business as well. He was driven to help create and sustain an educational program that would indeed change the discourse and the behavior of politics in the Commonwealth. He was totally engaged with leaders from the beginning who shared that passion, people like Lee Middleditch, Michael Bills, John Munford, Wiley Mitchell, Frank Atkinson, John Hager, Fred Scott, Barbara Reed, Gene Jensen, and so many of you in this room. One of the prize pupils of that first year, Emily Couric, claimed proudly that the Institute experience changed her life, and she in turn changed many of ours. Today, there is no denying success with over 1,500 graduates devoting themselves to public service. 22 members of the current General Assembly are grads, and Bill would be particularly proud of the fact that there are 11 Democrats and 11 Republicans. Put those 22 people in a room, and you will hear very different discourse than the one we normally hear in the public space. Bill was a master at creating a visual image with 1,000 words. We also know that a picture can be worth 1,000 words. Our Cooper Center colleague, Melanie Gillies, has used her video magic as a way to help us celebrate Bill in video form. Please join me as we watch her gift.
Thank you for your inspiration, for your life and love. Thank you for your recognition of the one above. Thank you for your sweet compassion, for your life of truth. Thank you for walking on this earth. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your inspiration, for your life and love. Thank you for your recognition of the one above. Thank you for your sweet compassion, for your life of truth. Thank you for walking on this earth. Thank you for being you. Oh, thank you for walking on this earth. Thank you for being
Thank you, Melanie. As we get older, we begin to understand that it's upon that final breath that we realize how truly blessed we have been by having someone like Bill in our life. It's also a challenge. Bob Gibson and his superb teammates, along with John Hager and the Sorensen leadership, are enthusiastically guiding us as we celebrate what's been achieved and commit ourselves to an enhanced future. Now is the perfect opportunity to make tangible our words. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here, and we invite you now to join dinner and do what Sorensen does, which is connect and reconnect. Thank you.